It's a suspension of Jamie, but it seems like she's got another hearing, and other people are still controlling her life and her money.
Vinny, I'm on Grand Avenue, 2 blocks from where all this is happening. I can see Camila. I just really changed out of my Free Britney shirt. So obviously a big win for Britney. We know that she wanted Jamie out, and she's been asking for this for a long time. But I got a question. Before he offered to resign, Jamie Spears filed a petition to terminate the conservatorship entirely. And I understand that former federal prosecutor Matt Rosengart wants to go through the process, but I don't see any reason why he hasn't filed a petition to terminate the conservatorship. It should have been terminated years ago. So hopefully this is the next to last step for Britney being freed entirely, because it should have happened a long time ago.
Right? The judicial branch is part of the government. It's the government reaching into someone's personal life. I don't like that.
No one likes it, Vinny, and this is something that everyone can agree on. You're in congressional hearings, you got AOC on the left, you got Matt Gaetz on the right. I mean, everyone agrees that this is an abuse. There's no legal reason for Britney Spears to be under a conservatorship. And both in California, the legislature is considering reform, and even at the federal level. So this is a terrible thing that's happened. And I'm not comparing the two because they're very different. But when there's a lot of media attention, including here on Court TV, on something like George Floyd, we're seeing change. We're seeing police reform. And I can guarantee you there will be conservatorship reform. I'm sorry Britney's had to suffer for 13 years and maybe being milked out of millions of dollars. But I guarantee you, Vinny, things will change because of Britney Spears. Child who's been murdered. So you got to go aggressive in this case. You know me, I don't like to give any deals, any discounts, especially in a case like this. I mean, yesterday we knew Macaulay was a liar when West Virginia played that hour-and-a-half interview of him just repeatedly lying to law enforcement. First he was at work, then he was at home, then he was home, then he went back to work, talking about drug use the whole time. But today, two really interesting things happened. Obviously, we heard from Rock, the cadaver dog. Jurors love those dogs. And then now you have this sexual component, right? Between Chantel talking to Macaulay, and then really the testimony of how her body was found, this really young girl. I mean, it's really just horrifying. So lots of points scored by the prosecution today. And like Kirk said, this is one of those slow guilty pleas. I expect to get a guilty verdict pretty quickly here.
Yeah, Eklund, the picture that's really coming together with the prosecution, the fact that, there has to be some level of cooperation going on here.
Sure. And Vinny, we've seen a lot over several decades, especially out of Florida. I've never seen anything like this. But ultimately, even if he consented to being trapped in the suitcase, there was no consent for him to be in there, especially overnight, and have her open it up at 11 a.m. So I agree with Kirk and Eklund here. Really, the only play for the defense here is some sort of manslaughter. You can go voluntary, heat of passion, or involuntary, but it's going to be very tough when you MacGyver a paperclip to zip him up. You leave him there for hours and hours, and ultimately you taunt him as well. So very tough. If you're the defense attorney, you walk into the DA or the county attorney there and you beg for a manslaughter deal. They're not going to give it. And you maybe, try to beg and plead for the jurors to give you one. Not going to happen. This is going to be another easy conviction.
All right. We've got a trial date, folks. Take a look on the screen.
Vinny, I agree with Francis, and I like Nancy too. Brian Laundrie's long gone, probably outside the country, because his parents, instead of contacting the authorities when their future daughter-in-law didn't come back, they contacted their lawyer and they went camping for a week. So they gave him a head start like any good criminal parents do, and that's why he's long gone. That's my best guess. Obstruction of justice, there's all sorts of fun offenses they can be charged with out there in Florida. So obviously we need more information, but defense attorneys always talk about reasonable doubt. Well, what's reasonable here? That the parents are protecting their son, or they're looking out for the best interests of their missing future daughter-in-law. I think it's the former.